You no longer need to be an expert to get information like what you see on the screen here. The overview of the CPU throttled workloads, or if I scroll further down, OOMKills workloads, or top memory consuming and CPU consuming workloads. This is something that is now natively supported in Dynatrace through Dynatrace Assist. And the only thing you really need, if I scroll all the way up, is to just phrase your prompt. Now, I want to show you a little bit of what I've learned over the last couple of weeks, because Dynatrace Assist has been in the product for a while, but it has recently been upgraded with a new model from Anthropic. Also, we added skills to Dynatrace Assist, and we also have a special trained model for natural language to DQL, so that Dynatrace Assist really understands what you want and then translates it into the best DQL possible. All right. So let me quickly first zoom out here again. I want to make sure that I am here in the right zoom level. I'm starting as always, and I also put myself on the bigger screen. I'm here on the Dynatrace Playground. For most of you that have been watching some of the videos, the Dynatrace Playground is the public available Dynatrace environment. You can easily get there. Just log into your Dynatrace environment. On the bottom left, click on your name, and then just hover over, and then you can select any of the environments you have access to, and the last one is the Playground. If you are in the Playground, you can see here that we obviously have the Launchpad, but the Assist is really what the focus is today. So if you open up the Assist, I, in this case, see my last conversation. As you can see here, I also have a list of all of my conversations. This is exactly what you know from other chat tools or AI tools. Now, let's start with a fresh conversation, because this is what you get when you start the first time. Welcome to the new Dynatrace Assist. Very important. This is the first tip and trick. On the bottom where you can see Agentic, if this is grayed out, it means you have not yet enabled the new agentic capabilities. And there is actually a great getting started guide. There will also be on this I button here. If you click on it, there will be a link to that getting started where it tells you exactly what you need to do. Just quickly for you, I just open up my settings. I want to just quickly show you what you need to do on the settings side. So on settings, there is Dynatrace Intelligence, and then you have the generative and agentic AI. And this is where you can turn on agentic AI. Okay, this is really the magic thing. This is also where you can configure additional rules. So because the new thing with agentic AI is not only can you ask standard questions that are answered by analyzing our knowledge base and our documentation, but now Dynatrace Assist can execute queries on your behalf. And you can define rules on what you may not want the Dynatrace Assist to include, right? First of all, Assist always executes in your user context, so only the data that you really have access to can also be analyzed and queried, right? But from a settings perspective, please check this out. And there's also some permissions, so make sure you check out the documentation. Now let's go back. If I go like here on the Launchpad, you may have noticed on the bottom here, the pre-suggested prompts are changing, so they are aware of where you are and which app you are. So for instance, if I go to my Kubernetes app, I click here, opening up the Kubernetes app. So now Dynatrace Assist immediately changes and provides some of the prompts that the Kubernetes app delivers. So these prompts really come from the apps. That means you can also write your own apps. You can deliver your own prompts also for your own apps. If you want to see all the prompts, as it says, you just start with the / command, and then you get to see a lot of pre-defined prompts. And I want to, execute a couple of those. So the first one though, let's check pod errors. I've never done this before. So you click on it, it comes with a predefined prompt. My pods are showing crash loop backoff or pending. Please investigate the related logs, events, and CPU memory time series in order to determine the likely root cause. So now, what is happening now? The first thing is, you can see here where it says read files, or read 2 files, 3 files actually. Dynatrace Assist uses skills. So these are also skills that you can find on the GitHub repository, on the Dynatrace GitHub repository that's called Dynatrace for AI, because you can obviously also use these skills with your Claude, with your Copilot outside of Dynatrace. But just so you know, this is now also all part of Dynatrace Assist within the Dynatrace platform. While this is running, I also want to highlight here, you can change this to show as an overlay, right, where it overlays to the app in the background, or you can always switch to a split view, whatever you like. I often like this. Now, as this is going on, the cool thing is it analyzes my prompt, it loads the skills, and I'm sure many of you have played around with AIs. So now it's executing tools, and we call them the agents. So we can actually see here, oops, it's actually going very fast. I'll try to open this. It actually shows me what type of TQL queries it executes in order to answer my question. And in this case, it is executing a time series query because I was asking, looking for pod conditions. So it's looking at memory usage, memory limits, and so on. So I see the TQL, which I think is pretty cool. I also get to see the output. And what's also nice, I can edit this in a notebook. For me, this is a really great way to learn TQL and see what type of queries the agent executes for me, obviously with all the skills it has. And you can always do an open with. So if you don't want to open this in a dashboard, excuse me, you can also add it to the notebook, to a dashboard, just view the query, add it to a Guardian, right? That's also a great thing, or put it into a workflow. All right, let's open up the Assist again. So I think it actually has gone through everything. So it has scrolling up again. So it executed all these queries. It found the crash loop backoffs and pending pods in the cluster. It's called Dynatrace Playground. Primary findings, OOMKills. I mean, if you are a Kubernetes expert, then obviously, this is extremely valuable. It gives you a full overview, secondary findings, log evidence. It also found logs that are relevant here, and I can go on. So for instance, maybe what I would like to ask is, you can even run a forecast, run a memory forecast on the OOMKills. Let's do this. I think that is a pretty cool prompt. And here we go. So you can obviously have a conversation like you also would do with any other AI agent that you use. It keeps the context. While this is running, be reminded that on the top left, right, you can always go back in history of all of your conversations. You can also rename the conversation. I think by default, the conversation name is obviously the initial prompt. But if you you want to be more creative, or it makes it easier to find later on, you can obviously rename it. Now, it's been doing the forecasting. So let me actually see which it has the host skill loaded, and now it's doing some forecasting. Here we go. Again, the cool thing is, like you would also do with Copilot and Claude, right? If it executes tools through MCPs for you, it also shows you what it has executed and what comes back. Same here, and it gives me a lot of information, right? So this is doing some forecasting for me, and it gives me some recommendations. It also gives me code recommendations or YAML configuration changes that I would need to do. Talking about YAML, I want to ask it one more thing. It seems as the add service, and I would like to ask now, can you show me the full YAML or manifest for the add service pod, and how that manifest would look like if I add your recommendation for the new limits. So let's see what it does. I expect Dynatrace with Kubernetes, not only do we have your logs, metrics, and traces, I'm sure you know we also have all of your configuration. And actually, let me just show this while this runs. Oh, it's already done. It's amazing. Current pod manifest. So we already have the manifest here. I just want to quickly show you while this runs, putting it into a side-by-side view. If I am, what was this again? I think it was the add service. Right? Let's go into the Dynatrace Playground. That's it. And I want to go to my pods. Right? Let me just open up this little space, would be nice. So pods. And I want to do the add service. Let's just do this add service. All right. That might be easier. here we go. Here's the add service. And just so you know that we also have the definition now here, right? So for your Kubernetes objects, you have all the YAML of all your Kubernetes objects. We also do the same thing for your cloud resources, whether you're running on AWS, on GCP, on Azure. If your any type of configuration is available in Dynatrace, this is stored in Smartscape, and this is also why now Dynatrace Assist has access to it. Okay, so this is, from my perspective, awesome, right? Because now I don't need to go in and find the YAML, and I mean, it just everything is here, and I get the YAML. You know, I think that's the original YAML. If I scroll up, the current pod manifest, and then it gives me even the updated manifest with all of the new, where is it? All of the new limits that it just suggested. So that's pretty cool, right? And now obviously from here, you could then take this, think about, you can also execute this in a workflow. There's a preview on this, and you can then even open up a pull request with the right changes. Obviously, all of these skills that I'm just showing you, you can also integrate this with your own agents. That means if you already have an agent in let's say, Visual Studio Code, you can do the same thing and then have Copilot, open up the pull request for you. My point here is, this is a game changer, right? Awesome. So other things that I like, if I go to the assist, let's start a new conversation. Let's do logs. Logs is a great topic. Let me open up the logs. There is some out-of-the-box ones that are really nice, like find errors. What I also like, and I think I've done a little LinkedIn video on this. So I'm in the logs app. There seems to be some error logs. So let's first focus on those. It's a lot of different types of logs, and I'm wondering if there's some type of pattern over it. So what I can now do is look at all the error logs, let's say in the last 2 hours, and try to identify the top log patterns. Give me a quick overview and show me representative log lines for the top 3 patterns, something like this. Let's see. So ideally, as a new skill that I was just made aware from a colleague Wolfgang Baer, so kudos to him and what he's been doing. There is the tool that we now have available in the Dynatrace MCP server, and also available here with Dynatrace Assist. It's a log pattern agent, and you can actually see here, right? You can also see the output. It really allows you to execute queries, and it's a long result back. But basically, the result is really, it finds patterns. It finds patterns. So it first did a query, a log query, and then it finds patterns across of all these logs. And if I kind of shorten this, here we go, right? It gives me an overview of the top patterns found. Meaning, if I scroll all the way up, as an overview, so the top 8 patterns are service unavailable, upstream dependency, OTLP, Postgre, column doesn't exist, and so on and so forth. And then it goes into every single pattern, and it gives me a representative log message that fits that meets that pattern. So it's phenomenal. Like the service unavailable, you can see here the same log line happens across, it seems, multiple type of iterations or versions of that log that is written. It detects all of this for me. Right? Now let's do OTel exporter failure, data refuse. That's an interesting one. So what I will do now, I'll copy this because I don't want to lose OTel data. And then I would say, can you tell me more about the log line? How can I fix this problem? Maybe how and where? How and where can I fix this problem? Let's see. So I hope, it's getting a little bit more context from that log line. It's also a help agent. So there's different types of agents that are coming in, and I don't want to lose any data, but I've just learned that there is a, what's it called again? The OTel exporter data failure. And if I go up here, hotel exporter failure, dropping data, and some other things. Error scraping metrics, maybe that would have been a better one to ask, right? And now I'm trying to get the answer about how to fix this. So the help agent, I think the help agent, what it means. There we go. This is emitted by the memory limit, so it gives me recommendation. It seems I'm running high on memory. It gives me insights into why this is a problem, where this is a problem, how to fix this, and everything is here. Right? Isn't that cool? I mean, come on. This is. I always thought I'm an expert and I know how to do things, but this is just phenomenal. And this is everything, obviously, in Dynatrace. And I want to highlight it again. If you want all of these skills that we're using here, they're also available on github.com, Dynatrace organization, and then there's a repository called Dynatrace for AI. And I will also add the link to the description of the video. Cool. So this is really neat. What else? Let me do this. I like traces a lot. So for those people that know me, I love traces. So let me actually go to distributed traces app. Right? And I want to know a couple of things here. I typically, look at outliers. I look at performance problems, and maybe starting a new conversation. Show failing endpoints, explain exception analysis. I would actually say analyze the slowest traces. Well, what are the slowest endpoints in my traces? Show me the top 3. Okay, that's a good analysis. I want to understand what are the slowest requests. I could obviously, while this is running, let's see if I can beat him. Right, there is with the histogram, I always like this. You can go in and then we just zoom in to maybe this here, but it's already beating me to it anyway, right? But I'm basically doing the histogram analysis, and then I could also say from an endpoint perspective, just so you see that I still know my way around a little bit in Dynatrace, group by endpoint, and then here we go, right? And then we have all of this here. Perfect. So flag D evaluator, the get API data. So it seems it has picked up pretty much the same things. I'm here sorting on average. I think he or she has been doing this. Here we go on the duration on the P95 or P99 probably. But I guess it looks pretty good. So flag D evaluation, API metadata, and now the key observations are obviously here. Suggest drill into the get API traces to identify the bottlenecks. You know what? I would like you to do this. Please drill into the details of the get/API. I guess I need to do it like get/API/data endpoint. And tell me what the main hotspot in that trace is. And what do you think? Shall we just try to do this as well? I filter on the API endpoint. It's doing the data analysis. Got the slowest trace. Yeah, you're beating me to this again, right? And now I want to remove that, and I should have just done the list. I sort by duration, and then let's see what here we go. This is the trace, ends with a 504. So a lot of different calls. It seems the get adds is a really slow one, right? But let's see what Dynatrace Assist tells me, because why bother if this can be done so much faster? So first of all, right, we can again see what type of queries it executes. So it gets all the spans that are part of that API endpoint. Then I guess it gets some additional information. So it found the trace ID, and then getting all the spans of that trace. It then does some additional stuff. I think getting some additional information, like all the fields that it needed. And then what else? Calculating also some more performance metrics. That's all there. It gives me a nice overview. Clearly, it also detected that the call to ads service get ads is the hotspot. It marks it here even in text nicely. and so on and so forth, right? I mean, isn't that cool? All the years of me analyzing distributed traces and identifying hotspots, now everyone can do this without being an expert and without all of these years of experience. So check this out. This is for traces now. So we've done logs, we've done traces, we've done Kubernetes. Maybe the last one that I want to quickly show is, let's go to problems. I'm sure on the problem side, if we start a new conversation, determine root cause, view problem time. Oh yeah, one thing that I wanted to quickly highlight, especially for those of you that know Dynatrace and have played around with it. In the different apps that you have, for instance, in the logs app, but also here on the Dynatrace app, on the problems app, sorry, you always have this explain the problem. And explain the problem is great. Explain the problem, however, and you will see this now, it actually launches the Dynatrace Assist not in agentic mode, but in the regular mode. This will soon come so that also all of the explain buttons will automatically launch it in agentic mode. But the regular explain now, right, it gives me an explanation just based on the prompt that was done behind the scenes. Yeah? There's a little bit more with the context, but it cannot go out and fetch more information. And you can also tell, because on the bottom left, right, there's also this agentic, and it says, hey, agentic mode isn't available for conversations started from other apps. But what you can do, and this is what I would like to do now. So I start a new conversation. I'm in agentic mode. And now I want to say, what's the problem ID? Bum, 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 bum. And I want to say, can you do a full root cause analysis of Dynatrace problem with the ID this, beyond what's in the problem, also look at any logs, events, or configuration. So let's see what it does. This seems to be like a boring problem, not a boring problem, but a problem that is only impacting a single service. The failure rate goes up. And you can already tell the difference, right? Now you can see in the agentic mode, it's doing the root cause agent first. It validated that this is really the problem that we are working on. Then it's loading the problems skill. So there's a skill again that then describes what the agent should do based on our best practices, and then it goes off, right? It fetches the logs, it fetches events, right? Basically what I've prompted, and also what's in the skills. So I assume, and I'm making this a little bit bigger here again, I assume the analysis here, root cause, affected services, cluster information, one agent liveness probe failure causing, look at this. We actually found that in this case, the one agent is identifying liveness probes failures, Nginx is unhealthy, connection refused issues. So there's different things that are happening here, right? And this all without having to do any additional click. This is just a prompt away. Also timeline of events, what is happening, impact assessment, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So it seems this one is actually an instrumentation issue. See, we found something that I wasn't aware of, but I will definitely hand it over to the Dynatrace Playground team because we should fix these things. RCA is complete. Here we go. Key findings. Yeah, all good. And obviously, in the end, if you like something, make sure you are clicking the everything is good. Why do you choose the rating? Great findings and great details. Here we go. Perfect. Feedback sent. Now, what else can I tell you? Play around with this. Make sure you are enabling the agentic mode. Read the getting started. It also works with with Smartscape, databases app, the problems app, which are seen with the vulnerabilities. On the services app, maybe that's a cool one too, because some of you that have followed my content, you probably know that I'm not only a big fan of just traces, but also identifying certain patterns. And in the services app, for instance, I do believe there is service dependency or service detection, but slowest database queries, right? What are the slowest database query executions across my services? If you have services that are calling backend databases, then there's different patterns, right? Loading too much data, too many round trips, the N+1 query problem that I'm sure you have heard me talk about in the past. And I assume now that Dynatrace Assist will detect what type of statements were executed. And look at this, it already comes back with the actual statements that are slow. And there was a Postgres, this was SQL Server, there's a DynamoDB, there's another SQL Server procedure that is a statement that takes long, and it explains all of this to me, right? Who is it calling? What is it doing? Like, where does it get called from? Which table? This is phenomenal, right? Maybe as a last one, can you tell me which services are making calls to the products table in SQL Server? So again, I would expect it detects this information. I would do it probably through traces and find all of the traces that make calls, or it actually does it through Smartscape. Yeah. First of all, it says, well, I'm not really clear on the service name. Comes up with the queries. There we go. And it tells me it's the products. Easy Trader Broker Service. That's what it is. Yeah. Cool. All right. So, folks, I hope you like what you saw. Let me get back on the big screen here. Here we go. Perfect. I do hope that you're as excited as I am. This is super cool technology. There's more stuff coming in that area when it comes to Dynatrace Assist. But do me a favor, check out the stuff in the product. Check out the skills that you can also load into your agents. Check out dtctl. That's the tool where we also have skills for. It's a command line tool that can interact with the Dynatrace API, query data, make configuration changes and so forth. Can also create dashboards and stuff like this. Talking about dashboards currently cannot be created with the Dynatrace Assist within the product. What you can do, as you saw me do earlier, when you have queries, you can do an open in dashboard or open in a notebook, but you will also in the future be able to say, please create a dashboard for a particular use case, and then it will automatically also create the dashboards for you. This will be coming. But yeah, this was the session on Dynatrace Assist. Let me just do this, right? So Dynatrace Assist, cool stuff. Also thanks to the development team, Gabi, Wolfgang, and everybody else behind the scenes. There's many people that contribute to this. But now, well, this was another tips and tricks session. Feel free to put a comment in the video. Feel free to subscribe to the Dynatrace YouTube channel. Share your learnings. Okay? Ciao. Bye-bye.